Star Wars. It's epic, it's thrilling, it's got lightsabers, space battles, and enough lore to fill a Death Star. But here's the thing. Star Wars isn't just a story about a galaxy far, far away. Beneath all the cool ships and force powers, it's a story about history. Think about it. Fallen empires, power-hungry dictators, rebellions fighting impossible odds. These aren't just science fiction tropes. They're echoes of our own past. George Lucas, the mastermind behind Star Wars, didn't pull these ideas out of thin air. He drew inspiration from real-world history, weaving those threads into the very fabric of his galaxy far, far away. He looked at the Roman Republic, at its rise and fall, at the emperors who seized power and the citizens who resisted. He saw the chilling rise of 1930s Germany, the terrifying efficiency of its propaganda machine, and the horrors inflicted in the name of power. And he saw the unwavering spirit of rebellions throughout history. From the American Revolution to the French Resistance, ordinary people fighting for extraordinary ideals. Today we'll journey back to long ago in a galaxy far away and follow the threads, right back here to our own ancient and recent history. We'll explore 3 key pieces of history that helped shape the Star Wars saga: the fall of the Roman Republic, the rise of Germany in the 1930s, and the timeless struggle of rebellions throughout history. Buckle up as we explore the real-life events that inspired the lore that has been captivating audiences for almost 50 years. The Roman Republic. For centuries, it stood as a beacon of democracy, a shining example of what a government for and by the people could achieve. But like a dying star collapsing under its own gravity, the Republic was not immune to the forces of ambition, corruption, and ultimately tyranny. Just as the Roman Republic faced internal strife and the rise of powerful figures like Julius Caesar, the Galactic Republic in Star Wars found itself teetering on the brink of chaos. The seeds of discontent were sown, and from those seeds grew an empire, built on the ashes of the very system it swore to uphold. This parallel between the Roman Republic and the Galactic Republic is no accident. George Lucas, a history buff himself, drew heavily from the Roman model when crafting the political landscape of Star Wars. He understood that the fall of a republic is rarely a sudden event. It's a slow burn, a gradual erosion of power and ideals, often fueled by charismatic leaders who exploit fear and instability to their advantage. And who better embodies this archetype than Chancellor Palpatine? The seemingly benevolent leader who, like Julius Caesar before him, would ultimately dismantle the Republic from within. Just as Caesar crossed the Rubicon, igniting a civil war that would spell the end of the Republic, so too did Palpatine manipulate events to gain absolute power, transforming the Republic into the iron grip of the Empire. One of the most striking parallels between the Roman Republic and the Galactic Republic is the role of their respective senates. In both cases, the Senate was initially intended to be a body of representation, a place where elected officials could debate and legislate on behalf of the people they served. However, as both republics declined, the senates became little more than rubber stamp institutions, their power eroded by ambitious leaders who sought to consolidate their control. In Rome, Julius Caesar skillfully manipulated the Senate, using a combination of bribery, intimidation, and political maneuvering to secure his own power. Similarly, in Star Wars, we see Palpatine, a master of political maneuvering, gradually stripping the Galactic Senate of its authority. He uses the Clone Wars, a galaxy-spanning conflict, to centralize power in his own hands, all the while maintaining the facade of a functioning democracy. He understood that true power lies not just in brute force, but in controlling the narrative, in shaping the way people perceive their reality. And what better way to control the narrative than by controlling the very institutions that are supposed to represent the people's will? The decline of the Roman Republic and the Galactic Republic share another chilling parallel: the shift in military loyalty. In Rome, the once proud legions, who had sworn oaths to the Republic itself, found their loyalties gradually shifting towards individual generals, particularly Julius Caesar, whose military exploits and populist reforms made him a hero to the people and a threat to the established order. This erosion of traditional loyalties from the state to powerful individuals is a recurring theme throughout history, and it's a theme that resonates strongly in the Star Wars saga. Just as the Roman legions were instrumental in Caesar's rise to power, the Grand Army of the Republic, led by the Jedi Knights, became pawns in Palpatine's game of galactic domination. The Jedi, once the guardians of peace and justice, found themselves increasingly drawn into the escalating conflict of the Clone Wars. Their loyalty to the Republic was unwavering, but their trust in the increasingly authoritarian Chancellor Palpatine began to waver. This tension, this internal conflict between duty and conscience, is a powerful dramatic element in the Star Wars prequels. And then, of course, comes Order 66, the Emperor's chilling command to the clone troopers to turn on their Jedi generals. This sudden and brutal betrayal of trust, this swift and decisive seizure of power, marked the final nail in the coffin of the Galactic Republic, paving the way for the rise of the Empire. With the Senate powerless, the Jedi Order decimated, and the clone army firmly under his control, Palpatine declared himself Emperor, ushering in a new era of darkness for the galaxy. Just as Caesar's assassination did little to restore the Roman Republic, the death of Palpatine at the hands of Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi did not immediately bring an end to the Empire's reign. The seeds of fear and oppression had been sown too deeply. The Roman Empire, born from the ashes of the Republic, would last for centuries, its legacy a complex tapestry of military might, cultural achievements, and brutal oppression. Similarly, the Galactic Empire, forged in the fires of the Clone Wars, would cast a long shadow over the galaxy, its iron grip maintained through fear, propaganda, and the relentless might of the Imperial war machine. The rise of both empires serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that power, once seized, is not easily relinquished. It also highlights the fragility of democratic institutions and the constant need for vigilance against those who would exploit fear and division for their own gain. And so, the stage was set for a new kind of struggle, a rebellion against tyranny, a fight for freedom against overwhelming odds. But that, my friends, is a story for another chapter. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the stories behind the stories we love, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. And if you want to explore these topics even further, check out the affiliate links in the description for books and documentaries that take an even deeper look. Now let's jump back in. The Galactic Empire, with its imposing grey warships, faceless stormtroopers, and chillingly efficient propaganda machine, bears a striking resemblance to another regime that cast a dark shadow over our own world, World War II-era Germany. While George Lucas drew inspiration from various sources, the influence of 1930s and 40s Germany on the Empire's aesthetics, ideology, and tactics is undeniable. From the moment those Star Destroyers first appeared on screen, dwarfing the tiny rebel blockade runner, audiences couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. A chilling familiarity. That's because the Empire's design aesthetic borrows heavily from the visual language of the German Reich. The stark uniforms, the imposing architecture, the obsession with order and control, all of these elements evoke the chilling efficiency and ruthlessness of the militarized German nationalists. And it's not just the visuals. The Empire's tactics, particularly its use of fear and propaganda to control the populace, mirror those employed by that evil party. Just as the German dictator used the power of radio and film to spread his message of hate and division, the Empire uses its vast resources to control the flow of information, suppressing dissent and glorifying its own power. The parallels between the Empire and 1930s Germany serve as a stark reminder that the fight against tyranny is not just a battle fought with blasters and lightsabers. It's a battle for hearts and minds, a struggle against the insidious creep of fear and intolerance. The rise of both Palpatine and the infamous German Chancellor followed eerily similar trajectories. Both men were masters of manipulation, exploiting existing fears and anxieties to seize power. The Chancellor capitalized on the economic turmoil and political instability of post-World War I Germany, promising to restore national pride and prosperity. Similarly, Palpatine played on the Galactic Republic's fears of secession and war, presenting himself as the only one who could bring order to the galaxy. Both leaders understood the power of fear and resentment in shaping public opinion. They painted themselves as saviors, promising to restore order and security to societies grappling with uncertainty and change. Once in power, both moved swiftly to consolidate their control, dismantling democratic institutions and suppressing any form of opposition. The German party used the Reichstag fire, a suspected act of arson, to justify suspending civil liberties and consolidating his power. Palpatine, in a similarly calculated move, used the separatist threat and the outbreak of the Clone Wars to amass emergency powers, ultimately transforming the Republic into the very dictatorship he had warned against. Both the Galactic Empire and nationalist Germany understood the chilling effectiveness of terror as a tool of control. The Empire, with its legion of stormtroopers, its merciless inquisitors, and its planet-destroying Death Star, ruled through fear, crushing any hint of rebellion with overwhelming force. The mere presence of a Star Destroyer in orbit over a planet was enough to quell dissent before it even began. The Empire didn't just want obedience. It wanted absolute control, a galaxy where even the thought of rebellion was unthinkable. Similarly, the ruling German party maintained their grip on power through a vast network of secret police, concentration camps, and systematic violence. The Gestapo, the SS, and other instruments of terror were used to silence opposition, eliminate perceived enemies, and create a climate of fear where dissent was all but impossible. This use of terror, this systematic crushing of any opposition, is a chilling hallmark of totalitarian regimes. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of freedom and the constant need to be vigilant against those who would exploit our fears and anxieties for their own gain. Perhaps the most chilling parallel between the two empires lies in their respective acts of genocide. The Emperor's execution of Order 66, the systematic extermination of the Jedi Order, echoes the horrors of the Holocaust, the regime's systematic murder of 6 million Jews and other minority groups. Both events were acts of unimaginable cruelty, driven by a toxic mix of fear, prejudice, and a lust for absolute power. The Jedi, much like the Jews in Germany, were targeted not for anything they had done, but for who they were, a group perceived as different, as a threat to the established order. The execution of Order 66 was swift and brutal. Clone troopers, programmed from birth to obey the Emperor's every command, turned on their Jedi generals, gunning them down without hesitation or remorse. It was a betrayal of trust on a galactic scale, a chilling reminder that even those we believe to be our protectors can be turned into instruments of destruction. The Holocaust, while unfolding over a longer period, was no less horrific. Jews, Roma, LGBTQ individuals, political opponents, and others deemed undesirable by the regime were rounded up, deported, and systematically murdered in concentration camps. These acts of genocide stand as a stark warning from history, a reminder of the depths of depravity to which humanity can sink when fueled by hatred and intolerance. The Rebel Alliance, that ragtag group of freedom fighters taking on the might of the Galactic Empire, they might remind you of a certain group of revolutionaries from a few centuries back, the American colonists. Just like those early Americans, the rebels in Star Wars are fighting for freedom from what they see as a tyrannical rule. They're outmatched, outgunned, facing down a seemingly invincible foe. Think about it. Both groups had to rely on their wits, their courage, and a whole lot of hope to even stand a chance. They knew the stakes, they knew the risks, but they also knew the price of freedom was one they were willing to pay. And just like the American colonists, who used guerrilla tactics to outmaneuver the British, the rebels in Star Wars employ similar strategies. They use their smaller, faster ships like the X-Wings and Y-Wings to exploit the weaknesses of the Empire's massive Star Destroyers. It's a classic David and Goliath story, played out on a galactic scale. But the American Revolution isn't the only historical parallel we see with the Rebel Alliance. Take the Viet Cong, for example. These Vietnamese fighters, battling for their independence against a technologically superior force, provide another compelling comparison. They understood their terrain, the jungles of Vietnam, like the backs of their hands. And in much the same way, the Rebel Alliance utilizes their knowledge of space, finding refuge in asteroid fields and nebulae, places where the Empire's massive warships fear to tread. This guerrilla warfare, this asymmetrical fighting style, it's a tactic that has been employed time and again throughout history by those who are outmatched but not outsmarted. Remember those B-wing fighters, those heavily armed bombers that pack a serious punch? They were perfectly suited for quick strikes against Imperial installations, disrupting supply lines, and reminding the Empire that even in the vastness of space, nowhere is truly safe. The rebels, whether they're fighting in the jungles of Vietnam or the depths of space, they understand that sometimes survival is a victory in itself. And from these small victories, hope can emerge, and the tide of war can turn. And let's not forget the French resistance during World War II. Facing Axis occupation, these brave men and women fought back in secrecy, using sabotage and espionage to undermine their oppressors. Sounds familiar, right? Just like the Rebel Alliance, they operated in the shadows, striking at the heart of the Empire when least expected. Think about the rebel spies, those unsung heroes risking everything to deliver vital information right under the Empire's nose. Their courage, their commitment to the cause, it echoes the sacrifices made by countless individuals throughout history who dared to resist tyranny. These acts of defiance, however small they may seem, can chip away at the foundations of even the most powerful empires. It's about planting seeds of doubt, of rebellion, in the minds of those who might otherwise be too afraid to act. The French resistance, through their unwavering spirit, proved that even in the darkest of times, hope can flicker and ignite a fire that can consume even the most formidable of foes. And that's a lesson the Rebel Alliance clearly took to heart. From the American Revolution to the Viet Cong to the French resistance, the Rebel Alliance's struggle is a reflection of countless historical uprisings. These stories, etched in our history books and projected onto the silver screen, remind us that the fight for freedom is a timeless one. It's a cycle, you see. Empires rise, fueled by ambition and a thirst for power. But power, as we know, can corrupt, and absolute power corrupts, well, even more. People eventually will always resist oppression, will always fight for their right to determine their own destiny. The Rebel Alliance, with its echoes of these historical movements, embodies this universal truth. They remind us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit, the yearning for liberty, can never truly be extinguished. And that's why Star Wars, for all its spaceships and laser swords, resonates so deeply with us. It taps into something primal, something fundamental to the human experience. The struggle against tyranny, the fight for freedom, and the hope that, ultimately, good will triumph. Please, like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Let us know what surprised you the most, or if there's a historical connection we didn't cover, please, share it with the community. Your insights make the discussion even better. The next time you find yourself lost in that galaxy far, far away, remember this. Star Wars isn't just about epic space battles and Jedi Knights with mystical powers. It's a reflection of our own world, our own history, our own ongoing struggle for freedom. George Lucas, the mastermind behind this epic saga, didn't just create a story. He crafted a mirror, reflecting back at us the complexities of our own past and the potential pitfalls of our future. He reminds us that the fight for freedom, for justice, for a better tomorrow is a timeless one. Star Wars shows us the dangers of unchecked power, the seductive nature of fear, and the seductive allure of the dark side. But it also illuminates the power of collective resistance, the strength we find in one another, and the unyielding hope that even in the darkest of times, change is possible. It's a story that resonates across generations because it speaks to something universal within us. Whether we're watching TIE fighters scream across the screen or reading about historical revolutions in our textbooks, the message is the same: history repeats. But so does hope. And that's a message worth remembering, in any galaxy, in any time.